Well, this morning we get to celebrate a day that the other major religions of the world don't get to have.
That's right.
The key focus of our belief has risen.
Amen. Hallelujah.
All theirs have died and gone on. Ours is the only one that have come back. I know that last song cut into our time a little bit, but I thought, how in the world do you not sing that song? When she asked if she could sing it, I thought, and you know, honestly, with the worship we had this morning, if you couldn't go home and feel lifted up already, then you let the world get a hold of you a little too much.
Take your time. We got a good day. We're no service tonight, so if Brother Jared goes over to 12:30 or 1, we're good.
Dennis, we are.
Sister Betty asked me what the title of my message was, and she said, how about the champion of love? I had a little bit different one, but hers I couldn't really argue with. The one I had come up with, what does the Jesus you serve look like?
Oh, wow. I like that too.
In Revelations 5 and 5, he's called the Lion of Judah. Weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the seven seals thereof. If Sister Connie was saying, how many names is there for him?
Yes, amen.
Everyone, when they think of a lion, they think of a large, intimidating, the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
And what does your Jesus look like? Is your Jesus the broken and weak, the whipped and beaten, the spit on and the humiliated? You know what? My Jesus was submitted to all those things.
Yes, he was.
But he remained undeterred.
Yes, amen.
Many people don't want to become a Christian because they think Christians have to be weak and helpless. In Ephesians 6 and 10, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. 1 Corinthians 16:13, watch ye, stand fast in the faith, and quit ye like men, be strong.
Yes.
Psalms 31 and 24, be strong and take heart, all you who hope in the Lord. This is a pleasant surprise. You know what? Not one of these verses sound to me like God's calling for a weak person, weak people.
Come on.
We are to represent Jesus here on earth. And my Jesus is the all-time champion of everything. And I can already tell you I'm going to be crying this morning. My Jesus was not beaten and forced to the cross and to death. He didn't need 3 days to fight his way out of death and hell. He allowed himself to be crucified because of love for you personally, not for a generic worldwide love. It was not a sense of duty, but a love that we cannot comprehend. He spent 3 days in the grave to fulfill the prophecies, and when he had completed his work, he simply left death behind.
Yes. Yes, he did.
If he had laid down his life and took it back up immediately, many people would have said he had never passed away. After 3 days, it was clear that he was humanly dead.
Yes. Come on.
The thing is he had already beaten everything the devil had ever thrown at him. He had beaten disease. At that time, the scariest of them all, leprosy, hunger, storms, poverty, gossip about his origins, religious zealots, demon possession, and death in others. To prove that he was truly all-powerful, he laid his life down and took it back up. All the rest of these things someone else had done through God in the past. No one else has ever laid themselves down and rose up from the dead on their own.
Amen. Come on.
My Jesus was not held to the cross by ropes and spikes. It was love that kept him on the tree.
Amen.
The devil did not beat Jesus for a while, and finally Jesus managed to slip out of his grasp and escape hell.
Come on.
Jesus had agreed with his Father's plan from the beginning of time, And he laid down his heavenly crown for a short while
Yes, he
to
did.
take it up again at a pre-planned time.
Yeah. Come on.
The devil thought he was winning, but what he didn't know was the longer he thought he had won, the worse he was losing.
Yes, come on. Come on.
I always wondered why when they were mocking Jesus and telling him, if you're actually the Christ, why don't you get yourself off the cross? You know, if you look in the Old Testament, when they were trying to rebuild the walls of the temple, there was people mocking,
There was.
telling them, come on, come on.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even respond to them because they had a work to do. The mockers will mock forever.
Yes.
The people that have something in mind, they put their head down and complete the task that God gave them.
Yes.
And then I got to thinking, what if at the last second the devil's like, oh, this may have been a trap. Let's get him to get off the cross. I don't honestly know that either way. But it is something that went through my mind. You know, the thing is Jesus modeled a different strength than what the Jews were expecting, so they rejected him. Sometimes when we don't understand the plan, we reject it because we don't understand the true strength it holds.
Come on.
Sometimes we fail to realize what true strength looks like in real life. A lot of times it takes much more strength to control our tongue than to fire back and defend ourselves.
Amen.
There's been many times in my life it'd have been a lot easier to throw punches than keep my hands in my pockets.
Come on.
You know, it's a lot harder to forgive than to seek revenge. It's a lot harder to walk upright when falsely accused rather than just spreading it far and wide how evil those people are for jumping to conclusions about you.
What a word.
It takes true strength to live a controlled and balanced life.
Yes, it does.
The plan of salvation is not the first plan that we as humans would have devised. It makes no sense on the human level. But when we study it, we can finally see the true beauty and the love that it took to fulfill it. How much strength did it take for Jesus to allow people to mock him, to lie about his mother, to twist his words, to beat him, torture him, and still never stray from the path in any way?
Yes.
If Jesus loves you so much that he was willing to go through all of this for you and more, and we've all recounted the horrible amount of torture that he was put through, things that very few people have ever had to even think about, yet alone and it's one thing to take punishment when you know you have it coming. It's another thing to take it when you know you don't. If he was willing to go through all this for you, how can we at times hold him at distance and say he doesn't actually understand what I'm going through? We all do that.
Yes.
If you actually knew what this was like right now, and the things that we went through, the things that we're going through right now, are we saying that his suffering is of no matter? You know, the thing is if someone suffers in your place, what do you owe them? If someone lays their life down for you to have a better chance, or another chance at a better life, and you reject the opportunity, you are accountable for their blood. If you honor them and take the gift of the second chance and do the absolute best you can, you are no longer accountable for their life because it was a gift freely given. How many times have I made myself accountable for the life that he shed? But I had never actually thought about that. If someone lays their life down for you and you honor them and walk that life and take that chance, you're no longer accountable for their life because it was a gift. But if they lay it down for you and you trample on it, you're accountable for the blood that was shed. Now's the hard part. What have you done in the past week with the gift that you were given? What are you doing today? And what are you going to do with it tomorrow? Does the life that you personally are living honor the sacrifice that was personally made for you? And the thing is, as powerful and loving as Jesus is, there's one thing that he cannot do. He can't pray the sinner's prayer for you.
No.
He'll make everything that you need available,
Yes.
but he will not make your decision for you, no matter how much it breaks his heart.
Amen. Come on.
And I'm actually going to have plenty of time. I did not think I would. You know, in Luke 15, 11 through 32, we see the story of the prodigal son. And we all know the story. And in verse 15, it says, and he was in the pig pen slopping hogs, basically. You know, his father still loved him,
Yeah.
Sure did.
but he didn't force him out of his bad choices.
No, he didn't.
And he didn't stop the consequences. His father had the money, he could have brought him food. And you know, the thing is pig pens are still around today, 2,000 years later.
Yeah.
And people are still choosing to stand in their
Yes.
pig pens.
Yes, they are.
We think of him as a raggedy, half-starved, filthy, depressed person. And that's what he was on the inside. But how many times do we stand in a pig pen, dressed in our Sunday best, with our hair styled perfectly, or some of us, we just polish our head just a little bit. You have your Sunday best on, you have a smile on your face, you tell everybody everything's going great. And you are denying that you have mud all over you. Or some people, they don't realize there's a life outside the pig pen.
No,
That's what
they
they
don't.
grew up in, and
That's
that's what
right.
they've stayed in,
Come on.
and they think
Yeah.
that's all there is to this
Yes,
world.
come on.
And they deny that there is even such a thing as a pig pen. You know, the bad thing is, it doesn't matter what you believe. You don't change facts by your level of belief in them. If God said there is one way to me, that means there's one way to him.
Amen.
If he said the only way to me is through my son that was sacrificed on the cross for you, that means there is one way to you, one way to the Father, and that is through his son.
Yes.
No matter how much you want to think differently, you are accountable for the life that was shed for you.
Yes, amen.
And the question is what are you going to do with that accountability? And believe it or not, I have got to the end of my topic. And it's early. If anybody has anything that they would like to share, this is not my show by no means.
Brother
But
George, don't you think that if God go down and rescue him out of that pig pen. Don't you know? He would have run down there and he would have helped wash the mud off and he would have done whatever he needed to do to bring that child home. And sometimes we don't want to get in the dirty. We think, let somebody else do it. But there are people out there that Paul said be all things to all men. And sometimes we think ourselves too good to visit with the drunkard that has thrown up all over himself and doesn't smell the best and sees somebody with ratty hair and you think, ooh, what if they got bugs there? And
They got themselves into the mess, and they get themselves out, then I'll help them.
do I want to get close enough to put myself in the place where some of this might rub off on me? And I've been there. When I've seen somebody, I thought, ooh, I don't know if I want to get too close to them. But God sometimes expects us to get in that mess in order to minister to them and bring them out of that mess.
100%. He said to go into the byways and the side paths and the mud pits, and he didn't say when they come to your church doors, go help them.
That's right. That's right.
You know, the thing is we know that father, it was breaking his heart that his son was gone. But he knew until his son made the choice to come home, it wouldn't do any good to go after him.
That's right.
And God is not going to force you to come home, because until you make that personal choice that you want what he has for you, it wouldn't do any good if he forced you into the kingdom.
But we think that everybody's heard about the Lord, and not everybody has.
And on top of that, everybody ain't heard the truth.
That's right.
You know, they may have heard some fairy tale version of God, but they haven't heard the cold hard facts, and they haven't heard of the true love that's there. You know, in their culture, it was embarrassing or shameful to run. That father didn't care. As quick as he seen him off in the distance, he ran to him. And he didn't tell him, when we get you cleaned up, and when we get good clothes on you, and when we put a ring on your finger, and when we do all this and you prove, then we'll take you back. No, he run to him while he was filthy and nasty and hugged him and kissed him. And I know that there's been many, many times that I've been filthy and nasty. And if he waited for me to clean myself up, to make myself acceptable, I'd still be filthy and nasty. You know, it just, I know this isn't the typical Easter Sunday, but when Sister Betty asked me if I could do something for Easter, this came to mind. And when I got started on it, I could not stop. And then all of a sudden I just hit an end. So I think that's all he had for me.